Do you know why I'm smiling? Because today's show is all analog. It's an all analog show. Just kind of come right out and say it. If you're on the D team, the digital team, there might not be much for you here. But here's the thing. If you do stick around, be forewarned, you might be tempted to come over to this side, to the A team, the analog side. It's a long shot, I know that. But anyway, the 5 cartridges that I'm going to review today are, well, I'm going to start with the most affordable. It's the Audio-Technica AT-VM95E. Now, various versions of the 95 have been in the Audio-Technica line for over 40 years. This is the latest generation model. It's $69, and it's a terrific cartridge, moving mag. I'm also going to review a much further up in the Audio-Technica line, the Audio-Technica ART, the ART9XI. That one is $1,500. It's a whole other ball game, of course. But then I'm also going to review the Grado Platinum 3. Anyway, I'm going to review a $400 Grado made here in Brooklyn. It's a moving iron type design, but you use it like you would a moving magnet. It's basically interchangeable from a user's point of view. Then, to complete the roundup, 2 Dynavectors. One is the DVXX2, and that one is $2,150. And the other Dynavector is the DV20X, and that one is $1,250. Both moving coils, both made in Japan. Now, all of the cartridges were used on the same turntable, Technics SL1200G. It has a removable head shell, so I could switch back and forth between cartridges very, very quickly. The phono preamp for all cartridges was the same. It's a Parasound JC3 Plus. That's pretty much the front end. That's how I used all of these cartridges. To monitor the groove action, I used a few different speakers. My very own Klipsch Cornwall 4s, the brand new Mission 770, I guess it's the Mark II version you might call it, and ever so briefly the KEF Reference 3 Meta, those big, beautiful tower speakers. But it was mostly the Cornwalls. And I just really enjoyed this. Now, I started listening seriously because I was moving around, checking them all out for a while, breaking them in, etc., etc. But my real listening started with the $69 Audio-Technica. And you know what? It's a terrific cartridge. It's a fun cartridge. It's a very vivid sounding, very alive cartridge. You know, I had this other idea in the midst of listening to the Audio-Technica 95E, is that this would be a great cartridge for people who have turntables with interchangeable head shells where you could use the 95E. Let's say you have a really terrific cartridge you already love. But it's a very expensive cartridge. You don't want to mess around with it. But you got these trashy records that you found on the street, but maybe the music's good. You want to listen to them, or having a party, or you just want to play music as background. You don't want to wear out your really good cartridge. So you buy a 95E to play the other times, you know, when you're using music, vinyl as background or party, or you want to check out some records of questionable condition. Yeah, you just pop in the 95E and you are good to go. I'm going to do a little bit of business before we get into the actual survey. And the first thing is, oh yeah, there will be an Audiophiliac viewer system of the day later on in the show. And something I forgot to mention earlier about the Audio-Technica VM95 is that the stylus is user replaceable. You can just buy a new stylus. It just slides right in. It's very easy. There's no technical skills required. And so when it wears out, no problem. You buy a new one for 49 bucks and you're good to go. But in addition to that, there's a whole range of interchangeable styluses that all fit on the 95E of various qualities. So you can actually improve the sound of the 95E by getting a better stylus. Not going to get into the details of those except to show you them in this slide. Oh, the other bit of business is that the Dynavector 20X is available in 2 versions, high output and low output. They are the same price, $1,250. But you get the reason you would want the low output is it sounds better if you have a phono preamp that can handle their low output moving coils with ease and sound really good. A lot of them can do it, but they're not at their best. So for a lot of people, if you have a phono preamp that's less than, let's say, $1,000, you should probably get the high output 20X. And also similarly, that the Grado, the Platinum, is available in high output and low output. And again, if you have a really good preamp, you'll be better off with the low output version. If you're not sure, take it easy, just get the high output version. And again, they're both the same price. Both Grados, Platinum 3s are $400. Low output, high output, same cost to you. Now, getting down to business here for real with the Audio-Technica VM95E. It's a fun cartridge. It's an exciting cartridge. It's a very lively sounding cartridge. And one of the records I played in my sessions with the 95E was this one, this Clark Terry session from 1988. It was the first Chesky session that I attended. So it's an audiophile session done, actually this went in a recording studio, RCA Studio A. And it was a thrill for me to be there to actually see a real live audiophile session in person. No dynamic range compression, no equalizations, just a quartet playing jazz live in the studio. And so I'm playing the vinyl, which is, again, an all analog record. It was recorded analog, mixed analog, and mastered analog. And it's a very intense session because the dynamics, it's trumpet. Clark Terry plays trumpet, and the playing itself is extremely dynamic. And I would say the 95E did a good job with the trumpet, really nailing it. Not as good as its bigger brother, much more expensive brother, the Art9X. But within its price class, the 95E for $69 did a pretty good job. And like I said, record after record, the 95 impresses because it's fun. Is it the most refined sounding cartridge? No. Is it the smoothest? No. Is it the best tracking cartridge? No. But it's $69. And it's a lot of fun. And that's why it's lasted all these years, these 40 plus years of being in production. So that's where this survey begins. But the record that I was really itching to play was Elvis Costello's Get Happy. And this record, which I think is his third or fourth album, this is my favorite Elvis of all time. But I remember when it came out, it had 20 songs, 10 tracks on each side, meaning that even in those days, yes, they used compression in those days, they used compression to squeeze 10 songs per side, 10 rock songs on each side of this Elvis Costello record. And I remember being really frustrated, like, man, maybe they should have left off some tracks so the tracks would be bigger, they'd have more bass, more dynamic. And I said, it's not really cutting it for me. And when the CD came out, I was really happy because I thought we have no problem there. But I still have the original record, and I played the original record, which is, I guess, from early 80s, 81, 82, something like that. Anyway, I'm playing the record, and I'm thinking, wow, it doesn't sound that compressed. Of course it's compressed, but it doesn't sound annoyingly compressed with the Art9Xi. Yeah, it's still compressed. That sounds so good. These tunes, they just have this drive to them, this power to them. And Elvis is in peak form. And I'm just digging it thinking, yeah, this record's good. Elvis was right in the first place. I was wrong. I was underestimating the sound of this record for years, so much so that once I got the CD, I barely listened to it until now. And yeah, this is fine. If you're into Elvis and somehow you overlooked Get Happy, get happy. So this record is a beautiful, it's the subject matter is kind of disturbing at times, but the recording is just beautiful. I'm pretty sure it was recorded, mixed, and mastered analog. It certainly sounds that way. Randy's piano sounds phenomenal, and some songs have string arrangements which are lush and gorgeous and just beautiful. And it's big and spacious sounding, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And Randy's vocals, he sounds like he's right there between the speakers. It's exactly what I want from analog. It sounds like real music. And this is a theme that keeps repeating in my life, is that digital gets better and better and better, but it never really touches me. Music in digital formats never really touch me in the way that great vinyl recordings do. I love that with the 9XI, there's an immediacy to the sound, but a dimensionality, a body to the sound. The imaging, by the way, is very good, very clearly focused sound. But I was itching to try the Dynavector, the XX2, the one that's $2,150. And when I did that and I continued playing the Randy Newman record, the focus and the transparency of the recording really jumped up. It just had more tactability to it. I'm making up a word again. It just seemed more there. The outlines of each instrument in the sound stage were more clearly focused. It just had a better sense of life to it. And articulation, like Randy's vocals, just had you could just hear what he was saying that much more clearly. There were little bits of percussion happening deep in the mix that suddenly I became aware of with the XX2 that I wasn't aware of with the 9XE. So in terms of what does that extra money buy you? It buys you that. But the 9XI is no slouch in that department. It is an amazing performer. Keeping moving forward, I played this record, this Buddy Holly record that was remastered in 1987. And it's freaking gorgeous. I mean, it's mono, but it's big and warm and rich. And the first track on the album, Every Day, is my favorite Buddy Holly song of all time. It's just so simple, and that little slapping sound, that little percussive thing going. But it's his vocal, and I could almost sense his breath. I was like moving my chair closer to the speakers because I wanted to get closer to Buddy. And there he was. I mean, it was so... I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because it was just so perfect. So the next record I played was this one, David Bowie's Young Americans. What a contrast to the Buddy Holly, because this one is really dense. There's a lot of stuff going on in the mix, a lot of guitar crunch and texture and, you know, that touchy-feely stuff that I love. And his vocals, this is his soul period. You know, he's doing his soul impressions. No, I don't think it's an impression. I think he really feels it. But it's such a great record, and that track Fame, which I think he did with John Lennon, in there in the mix doing background vocals. That guitar crunch, I just love it. Again, this is the kind of music I just turn it up. I want to turn it up louder because I'm just digging it that much. So the next cartridge I played in my listening sessions was the Grado. Yeah, so I'm playing the David Bowie again, and it just had that sound. Like suddenly the bass had this meat to it. Now it wasn't fat and thick, but it was more of it. There was definitely more bass, but it wasn't mushy bass. It just was emphasized bass. And the top end detail is there, but it's not hyper detailed. And the imaging focus isn't as razor sharp as I was getting from the Dynavector, from the Dynavectors or the Audio-Technica. No, it doesn't do what those moving coil cartridges do, the Grado Platinum cartridge. No, it doesn't do that, but as a contrast and as an alternate way of thinking about the sound of your records, the Platinum 3 is got this mojo that I find hugely appealing. Continuing with the Grado Platinum, I played the Rolling Stones' Emotional Rescue. And man, oh man, Charlie's drumming on that record is kicking butt, man. It is so powerful, that snare drum, the way he's wailing on that snare drum. And Bill Wyman is still in the band, and his big, fat bass lines, they just had this, just energizing the Cornwall 4s. So I thought, okay, good, I got this down, got it in my head. I'm going to go back to the Audio-Technica Art 9XI. And when I did that, everything popped into focus. The imaging was sharper and clearer. The drums got faster. That snare drum snapped more. The bass, Charlie's bass drum had more definition to it. But the art, as much as I loved it, didn't quite have that juicy factor that the Grado delivers. So you may get the point over the course of this review, if you've been paying attention, and I admit it might not be easy because I'm jumping around a lot, is each of these cartridges has their own personality. I'm not going to make an attempt to say which one is the most accurate. Although I would say the Grado was probably not the most accurate, and neither is the little 95E. But it's not about accuracy. It's about musical pleasure. What's pressing it's about what's pressing your pleasure buttons. Let's do it that way. And I think the Grado does that exceptionally well. And by the way, remember, it's significantly less expensive than the 3 moving coils. It's a mere $400. So yeah, I dig the Grado sound, but it's not a universal sound. I'm not saying that everyone out there will jump on it and say, yes, this is a cartridge for me. But that, again, that's kind of the point of, if possible, if you have a turntable with a removable head shell and you too can swap between cartridges, you can have the best of everything. You can have that Grado for that real powerful sock, and you can also have a moving coil to give you more detail and clarity. You can have everything, is what I'm saying. Of course, you have to buy them. That's part of the story here about what's great about playing vinyl is it's more malleable to your taste so easily. You can do it with DACs, but it takes a lot more money and work and effort to be swapping around DACs to play a different recording. You know, like some nights I'm in the mood for the Grado sound and I play nothing but the Grado, and then some nights, no, I want that clarity, that texture, that detail that I get with moving coils. So it's, you know, it's one of those have it your way sort of stories. Do you want some more examples? I got a few more, like this one. Dizzy Gillespie live at Carnegie Hall in 1961. Now, live recordings from the early 60s are pretty hit or miss. This one, though, this is definitely a hit. First of all, Dizzy is firing on all cylinders. He's got a big band and they are wailing. There is percussion, there is big drums. It's on fire. It's really good. The only downside to the record, really, is that the audience, when you hear them applauding, it sounds like, where are they? They're not in the same building. I mean, clearly they were, but that part is not happening. But hey, it's 1961. But in any case, the overall effect of the recording is a lot of fun because it's so vivid. But it is very mid-range forward. It's like this. It's a little too close, like close mic, although I'm sure it isn't, but it has that kind of mid-rangey sound. So I switched over from the Art 9XI over to the 20X, to the Dynavector 20X. And that one took it back. It softened the edges in a nice way. It was easier to listen to. I turned it up louder since it was less bright, less forward. And I really liked that. The 20X put a smile on my face. But then I was missing the vibrancy of the 9XI of the Audio-Technica. So I popped in the XX2, the Dynavector XX2. Guess what? Came back. It all came back. I had like the best of both. That energy, that this is happening now sound that I crave. And I'm in a time machine and there I am in Carnegie Hall, right up close and hearing Dizzy's big band just wailing away. Yeah, and what makes it so amazing and even magical is that the XX2 does it so effortlessly. There's no strain to it. It's that, I guess, the way it tracks so well, or just the refinement of the design. It's just the sound. I'm sorry. The sound of music. It just sounds more like that. And I'm at ease. I feel relaxed. It just takes over. It just does. To finish up, my last one is Neil Young, Comes a Time. Now this is an acoustic Neil Young. It's a lush recording. Peak Neil, absolutely peak Neil. And I'm thinking, wait. The XX2 sounds phenomenal. So good. But this is the time I have to go back. I have to return to the beginning of this review and pop out the XX2 and pop in the Audio-Technica VM95E. All $69 of wonderfulness of that little green cartridge is. And how would I feel about it now? So I did that. And I lowered the needle into the groove, went back to Neil Young, and I thought, doesn't sound like a $2,000 cartridge. Doesn't sound like a moving coil, but it sounds like fun. It's brighter, definitely brighter. but it has that vivid quality that I like. It was very dynamic. You feel fingers strumming strings. You just feel the energy in the studio. That it does very, very well. You hear Neil on the mic, just on the mic, singing these beautiful songs. So yeah, $69 in 2022 can buy a really decent cartridge. But I'm not claiming it sounds like one that costs 10 times as much. No, it's not a giant killer. But if that's what you can afford, it's a really good start. It's a really, really good start. And as I mentioned early on in this review, you know what, even if you have a really nice cartridge, maybe you want to buy a 95E just to have one when you're playing really trashy records, ones that you found on the street or from your childhood. You want to play at a party. You don't want in a party people messing with your $2,000 cartridge or your $500 cartridge. You just stick in the Audio-Technica. You can replace the styles for 49 bucks and you're back home again. It's terrific. For, as they say, for what it is, damn good. Damn good. And speaking of damn good, yeah, it's now time for the Audio-Technica viewer system of the day. I like these pictures from Douglas. He lives in Stockholm, Sweden, and he has his gear in a beautiful oak cabinet. Anyway, as for the system itself, he has a Riga planar turntable, Riga planar 8 with a Hana SL cartridge, and then that's feeding an iPhono BL. Next up is an Auralic Altair G1 for streaming, and an Atoll Ion Signature integrated amp, and an Atoll CD200 CD player, signature CD player. And everything is plugged into an Isotech Evo 3 Polaris power conditioner. As for the speakers, that's where it gets a little tricky. Right now, he has a set of Dyne Audio Special 40s and a Rel 5i subwoofer to help the low notes. But he's thinking about change, and he's going to swap out the Dyne Audios for a pair of Sonus Faber Minima Amateur 2s if his wife agrees. Good luck with that, Douglas. All right, we are back. My name is still Steve Guttenberg, and yes, I am very, very much the audiophiliac. I am nothing but audiophiliac. That's what I am. That's what I'm here for, is to serve you. But if you'd like to help, what you can do is join my Patreon. You can join for a couple of dollars a month, and in the top tiers, you and I will have a conversation for 15 minutes or so every month at the beginning of the month. So I urge you to check that out. If you don't want to do that right now, no problem. What you could do instead, really, really easy, is subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate that. And hit the like button on videos that you like. Even if like a little tiny bit, do me a favor, hit the like button. And what else? Well, I do have a podcast. It's slowing down, but it's still there. And you could check it out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and iHeartRadio and my very, very, very own website just for the podcast called the Audio-Technica Podcast. That's what I got. And that's it. I got nothing else to say today. Thank you, as always, for watching. And I really, really do hope to see you, analog and digital people, back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.